Did you ever have a thought that you didn't think you could continue on with this?
Definitely. I mean, there's that's still going on.
We assume that once you make it, the fear disappears. But Rollins proves the opposite. I'm Brent Lindstrom. Welcome back to Like Minded Arts, where we help creatives build lives that don't require suffering for the sake of their art. Today is a very special one for me because I get to sit down with my favorite author on the whole planet, James Rollins. Now, James needs very little introduction, and for those of you who are familiar with him, you've probably heard him talk about science, adventure, and the wild research behind his books, but that's not what we're doing today. I want to explore the part of his story that rarely gets discussed: the identity, the stability, the fear, the business decisions, the finances, and the moment of doubt that shaped a decades long creative career. If you're a writer, filmmaker, artist, or other kind of creative trying to avoid the struggling artist trap, this conversation is not one to miss. So let's dive in and welcome James Rollins to the show. You started your writing career about the same time in your life that I have done in my life. And being that you had a successful practice beforehand and then transitioned into that, and that's the same thing that I've done, except mine's been in real estate instead of veterinarian. But one of the things that I was really focused on my life was finding a way not to make my family, I guess, suffer while I followed my dreams. And so I put some safeguards into place and saved up some money, learned how to do some investing and things because I went the self-publishing route. And I mean, obviously, this isn't something that can support me at that time or right now. And so I was wondering, when you made the leap, I've read that you had probably 5 books. You followed the 5 book rule of getting royalties off of 5 books. But I was wondering, did you have any other kind of safety net? Like, did you build enough financial stability from your veterinarian practice that you basically had savings? Did you learn investing? Or was it just pure royalties from your books that were keeping your family going while you, or once you made the actual switch?
When I did sort of step away, I always say step away, but it was very incremental. I didn't go, gosh, I have 5 books out. I am now ready to get rid of my day job. I did it step by step. Again, my first book, just to be crass, I got $25,000 for my first book. Obviously, I can't give up my profession on $25,000. My first contract for my fantasy book was $15,000. So I'm not quitting my day job on those types of. But my first book ends up being an international bestseller. Next book got bigger and bigger and bigger. So numbers got kept growing.
He wasn't running from failure, he was risking success. Did you ever have a thought while you were beginning any of this that maybe this wasn't right, that maybe this was a mistake, or that you didn't think you could continue on with this?
Definitely. I mean, there's that's still going on. I told you I got rid of the day job, but I didn't really totally get rid of the day job. Uh, I still keep my light veterinary license current, so that I continue education. I work with a group that traps feral cats, wild cats, and they bring them to the shelter. I spend one Sunday a month for 8 hours spaying and neutering, just to keep my surgical skills up a little bit, and not that they require a whole lot of effort to doing the thousands of spays and neuters I've done. I can still neuter a cat, as I always explain in book talks, in under 30 seconds. I'm still very proud of that record. So, there's a part of insecurity that goes with that. Just like, if it all falls through, I can always fall back on my old profession. So there's always a little bit of insecurity, but now, I'm 64 years old at this point. It's not that critical that I fall back on anything, and I've got enough nest eggs. So that's now not so much. It was more of a real concern, probably like the first 5 or 6 years after got rid of the day job, so to speak, and stepped fully away from the clinic. There was some nervousness about that because I had a monthly income that was very pretty much set after 15 years owning the clinic. It was a very steady business. It was very I knew exactly what my income was going to be because it was veterinary medicine is a very safe. Very few veterinary clinics close because of bankruptcy. It's a very successful business model, but you don't get that income especially after the monthly income from the sale of the clinic vanished. Then it was like, I'm on my own. Now it's all you're depending upon those advances and those royalty checks, and they don't come regularly, they come sporadically. And so you always sort of have to look down the road, like, it's okay, I'm not going to get any income for 6 months because that's when my next royalty check's coming in. Do I have enough income to last me until that? I'm just doing calculations and everything always fine, but there's still at the back of your head is like, I'm going to go to the poorhouse in 5 months from now because I will run out of income.
We think the leap gets easier when you're older. It doesn't. The stakes get higher. Folks, I hate to interrupt, but if you have not had a chance to yet, make sure to stop by lightmindedarts.com, where you're going to find books by me like One for the Money, Two for the Soul, Swing Low, The Hangman of the Woods, and Hard Boiled Cabbage, Book 1 in my new Gearlock series. You're also going to find short films by me and a whole bunch of articles about how you can avoid the struggling artist trap. So if you are a creative and you're trying to make it in a world where it's financially not that easy, check it out, because I'm going to be giving you a lot of tips and tricks, and I got a lot of cool stuff coming up in the near future, like the new Light-Minded Labs workshops and different things. So check it out, lightmindedarts.com. You can also visit the podcast, the Light-Minded Arts Podcast, and I hope to see you there. Now back to James Rollins.
And so I can be a scientist enough and extrapolate where that might be heading to, or at least see, if I stay, even if I plateau out here, how can I survive on that income? But even then, I wasn't quite ready to get rid of the day job. So what I did first was I owned my clinic, so I sold my clinic. There's a corporate group I worked with before I ever started my clinic. Every single year they would pester me, Jim, sell us your clinic, sell us your clinic. You have a hugely successful clinic. We want that spot. And I say, no, 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 15 times. No, no, no. Finally, it's like, you know what? I can see I can probably survive on this, but just in case these number, instead of just plateauing, if it's going back down, I need a cushion. So to me, it was the sale of my clinic gave me a monthly income for the next 4 to 5 years, which they were paying uh, per month on my sale of my clinic. But I also stayed employed. I worked with that corporate group after they bought my clinic for another year, so to help transition to the new management. So I went from full time working. So I got rid of my that business head. The business head didn't have to do hiring and firing and payroll and all that crap. I could just be a veterinarian. And then once I went home, I'm done. Didn't have to carry the beeper, didn't have emergency responsibilities. So that took a big load off my shoulders so I can actually write more. So that was my goal also, is that if I get rid of my day job, I make a contract with myself, I will write more. And so I began writing more. And then I went from full time to part time and then just doing weekends. And then about a year after I sold the clinic, I stepped away fully. At that point, I still had income coming in from the sale of the clinic. Uh, Luckily, over that past year, I had some big contracts come in. So I felt fairly comfortable at that point, stepping away.
Rollins didn't leap blindly. He built a runway. Stability isn't the enemy of creativity, it's the foundation. The dream doesn't require recklessness, it requires strategy. If you're scared, good, means you're awake. Just don't jump without a parachute. Folks, Jim left us with some really awesome things today, but I did not include all of them in this YouTube video here because our conversation was over an hour. And so if you want to catch the entire conversation that I had with him, jump on over to the Light-Minded Arts podcast. The link will be in the descriptions below. And believe me, you're going to want to jump over there and listen to the whole thing because, he's been interviewed by a lot of people over the years, but none of them have asked him the questions that I was asking him today. And so you're going to get a fresh look at our favorite author, James Rollins. I hope to see you there. I'll talk to you next time.